Welcome to the Vision Gap Show. Align your big idea and vision with a plan of action to resonate and stand out in your market. With your hosts, Andy Halko and Tony Zayas.
All right, welcome back to another episode of our show. Andy, today we're going to be talking vision, mission. We had talked core values in the last episode, and we were talking about how this stuff kind of all ties together. So vision, mission, a lot of times this is important to a company to bring a company together. Some companies don't put as much time into it. What's the benefit of value of really dialing this in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been about team alignment and trying to create a future that everyone is aligned to. Core values, like we just talked about, are the, why and the really the ethos of who you are as people. But the vision is, where are we going and how are we going to get there? And I think there's something to making sure that you have everyone in the organization headed towards the same point on the horizon. They're all rowing in the same direction. We'll just keep throwing out like these, analogies, but you get the point that at the end of the day, it really is valuable to have everybody in the team truly understand where you're trying to go, so that, in their daily actions, they can have that in the back of their head. They're making a decision about what to do with a customer, or they're making a decision about how to, present the brand, or even support somebody in customer service. Having that vision, that mission, BHAG, these things that are really future state or how you act, I think significantly improves how your employees really deliver day to day.
And if someone is thinking about, well, I'm more concerned about how my brand appears to the outside, to the external world, to the market, I think you got to make the case to understand that, like, the inside's got to match the outside. And you can't fake that. There has to be congruency. There has to be alignment. If you don't do this early on, you end up with culture that doesn't match. You end up with bad experience, all the things that cause you to lose customers, users, clients, and becomes messy. Whereas if you start out with this foundation, it becomes very powerful.
And I talk about it a lot. I think we have here is how many times I've been inside organizations and there's this misalignment. It's amazing to me. I'll go into a company, I'll interview folks across the business, or we'll do surveys, whether it has to do with culture or brand or whatever it might be, and how many different viewpoints there are. And I would, almost want owners or leaders right now to do an exercise in their head of how many people, if they asked across their company, where do we want to be in 5 years? How much do they really believe that those answers would be aligned? Yeah. And if they don't, at their core, think every employee is going to say the same 10 words, even if they're in different order, if they don't believe that, then they've got a team that's all rowing in a different direction. And that is just ripe for issues. And again, I've seen it over and over.
Yeah, 100%. Clients I'm working with recently, we've had them do a survey prior to a workshop, and I was actually really impressed with how aligned their off-the-cuff responses were. And so that was cool to see, a company that gets it and marching forward and, with that right foundation in place. So good. So let's talk about frictionless and take a look at how, because this isn't something that's easy to accomplish. This is, all this stuff that's related to brand strategy, positioning, values, vision, mission. None of it is like just simple stuff. Everyone talks about it and getting it right, but how to do it there's nuance to it, and it can be challenging. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of organizations believe that you can just, get in a room and figure it out. And that's a first step, right? But it can be challenging. And what are the right questions you want to ask yourself? And, how do you go through that to get to like some simple, articulate statements that then you can take down to your organization and infuse? And that is a two-part situation. Is one, you need to create and define, and two, you need to evangelize, where you're then making sure everyone in the team has access to it. And so with Frictionless, which we've developed, it is a tool that does both of those things for you, that it really, one, helps you and your team define it through our exercises, and then two, have a central repository where folks can go. And so I'll just kind of go into vision now. And there's a couple different pieces that we typically look at when we talk about vision. For me, the vision statement is that aspirational future definition. Your mission is, what are you going to do day to day, or how do you guide the team day to day to accomplish that vision? A manifesto, which for me is a mantra that your team can rally around, and it's a little bit more aspirational, emotional, but it's something that can really excite your team and even your outside audience. Big, hairy, audacious goals. We love this, BHAGs, but what is that big goal that feels, momentous and is there to excite and incentivize the team? And then even your unfair advantage, what is the thing that makes you, makes it hard for others to replicate what you do? And so these are elements that we look at as part of vision overall. And again, when you define those and you're putting them in front of your team, I think the opportunity to, really make sure that everybody's in lockstep and they understand it. And again, you have to evangelize it. These are things that need to be in front of people's faces every single day, whether it's through a platform or it's part of your culture and day-to-day activity. But that's what really gets people aligned.
And you mentioned the idea of, getting people in a room and ideating on this. Obviously, that's valuable to get that collaboration. But I think what we have here is the structure for that to be more effective. So as you just move to this workshop section, you want to go through here.
Yeah, and again, these workshops that are in Frictionless are all built off of 22 years of myself going and doing consulting and kind of honing the process and the way people move through this and exercises. And so this is part of the workshop that's here for vision, but you can have each of your team members come in and answer a couple of questions, at least for these base pieces, something like future audience, who are you going to impact, future goals, what is a big goal you want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years? And then what impact do we want our company to have on the world? And what the power is with Frictionless is that underneath all of this, we've baked in our methodology. And so, these questions may seem very simple, but when you have 4 or 5 people answer them, and then they're run through the methodology that is underneath the hood with AI, and you'll see I'm going to start running, it's going to write the vision statement. And so it comes back with something like empowering marketers and company leaders globally with accessible strategic planning, aiming to engage 50,000 users and democratize strategy improvement, right? And so it pulled together those answers. There's a process underneath that breaks all of that apart, that pulls, important pieces out, and then puts it through a lens of what is important for a vision statement. And so you can do the same thing across the board with mission, manifesto, big, hairy, audacious goal. And so basically it's coming in and really giving your team a structured process. And then it's using a 22 plus year methodology to take that information and filter it through to then produce something that is really valuable for you, where you can then put that into your vision, and then work from it from there. And again, this is a process with Frictionless that we've talked about in the past, that you can come in and do this again and again and see, okay, well, I've now thought 2 weeks later, here is another big, important, powerful piece of, who we want to impact in the future. I'm going to add that. And now I'm going to see what the methodology produces for me.
And so the AI outputs these, suggestions for these different pieces, but I think it's important to know that that doesn't mean you have to, you can refine that. This is meant to be an evolution and a process and iterations. But going through that lens and that process just speeds up this whole exercise, tremendously, and you're still getting everyone's input on it. And so it's a great piece for alignment and powerful to be able to get that. And I think what you're doing there is cool because there's both the shared and private. So private is something that only Andy, you see there in your account, but shared is what the team has. So I might be doing the same thing at the same time and looking at my private vision, and then we can iterate and find a balance between what I have, what you have, what other team members have, and say, oh, wow, that's it. Let's use this as our mission and, fine tune something. So powerful stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, this is where, again, you come in, you have your private, you have your opportunity to massage and work through this, right? Without it being something. And so whether you're one of the leaders and then you guys can come together as a group and, bring these ideas together. So I think there is that power of being able to iterate it on it in your own space, and then being able to have something that's shared as a team that everybody sees and says, okay, this is where we've landed. And I agree with you. I mean, frictionless is all about evolution, even in a business, especially a startup, these things change month to month, even in established businesses, vision and mission and some of these things, they'll slightly adjust year to year. And so instead of going back to the consultants and doing all that, you have the opportunity to come in on a regular basis with your team and say, okay, let's answer these questions a year later and let's see how much, it's changed or what we need to change for the vision, and then evangelize that. And so I think a lot of organizations stay stagnant in their strategy, and a tool like this gives them the ability to, constantly be evolving and constantly be evangelizing, which is the important piece.
Yeah, for sure. I think I mentioned to you briefly, we have a client of a long time, Spencer, and a long time successful business that he runs. And we were going through the workshopping process with him. And I love that he asked the question after we completed. He said, can I use frictionless to can I run through and lead the workshops with my team? And I love that he asked that question because exactly that, he got it. He understood that this is an evolution. There's more to add. It's always going to be changing, evolving, fine tuning. And I just, again, seeing that is fantastic because there are too many people who think this is an exercise. Just let's get it done. Let's put it on the wall. And then that's our mission statement. And it's a living, breathing thing. So pretty cool. This is kind of the conclusion for now of what we're going to talk about for the internal stuff. Next week, we're going to dive into offerings, where it's kind of that bridge where we lay out, what are the different products, services, solutions that you offer, and how do we define that in here within frictionless, so that we can start to build out messaging and positioning around those pieces and the hierarchy behind all that structure and everything. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in the next episode. But that was it for today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
This episode of the Vision Gap Show has been brought to you by Frictionless. Build high-impact strategy at scale. Create your vision, brand position, and go-to-market strategy, all in a collaborative AI-enabled workspace. Visit frictionlesshq.com to create your free account today.